Guys, how's it going? Today we are planting spring crops up here in the raised bed garden right behind us, which we prepped yesterday. So it's all ready to go. I can just pop seeds and plants in the ground and be done. Usually I do this all on the same day. It's kind of nice to break it up this year. So spring crops are the types of things you can plant early when it's still possibly going to freeze. Now our 10-day doesn't show any freezing temperatures. I think we have one night that's 33, but the rest of them are like high 30s. So we're looking pretty good, but most of the things I'm going to talk about today can even handle a little bit of a light frost. So you can put the seeds in the ground, plants in the ground. Sometimes depending on where the plants have been, you may need to put some protection over the top of them. I'm going to today, but most of these things are really tough and they really do need to be planted early because many of them don't love hot summer temperatures. Here are the raised beds. So we have 12 of them in here. We've got 4 that are 3x4, so 2 on this end and then 2 on the other end. Everything is kind of matching in this garden. And then 3x6 beds here. They are 12 inches tall. And then these are 6 foot on the long side and 3 foot on the short side. So we've got them kind of in a design here. You can see in this bed here and in the matching bed on the other side, that's where our garlic is planted. And we plant garlic usually in the fall, like September, October. It actually came up last fall for us because it stayed warm for so long. And then it starts picking up and growing again in the spring. Ours has like a little bit of tip damage from cold temperatures, but it'll be completely fine. And then we harvest about 4th of July. So there's always garlic somewhere in this garden going, so we won't be obviously planting in those beds. No digging in these beds. So you can see in this bed what we did. In fact, I didn't even bother cleaning them up because I knew I was going to be out here planting and I'll just hose everything off when I water in our seeds and plants today. But I replaced the drip system. This is what we use, 1/4 inch brown drip tubing that has holes every 6 inches. It does a really good job. I do 4 rows of it in our 3 foot kind of wide area there. I also amended, so a layer of land and sea compost, and then you can kind of see like right in here there's some Biotone starter fertilizer. I've got both mixed into the soil on top. And I do that when I'm getting ready to plant any new crop. So when I go in to plant the stuff that we're planting today will need to come out probably like end of May-ish, and then it'll be ready for a warm season crop. But when I take that stuff out, I will go back in with compost and Biotone to prep for our next crop. I also popped this soil thermometer in. Russell, move it. I put this in the ground, maybe an hour or so ago. You can see our soil temperature is hovering right around 50 degrees. I love this thermometer because it just is like a good reminder of what the soil temperature needs to be to plant different things. So for example, and it just gives a few examples, 45-degree soil temperature, you can plant cabbage, celery, onion, peas. 50 degrees broccoli, and then everything else pretty much is warm season like tomatoes and beans and corn and stuff like that. So anyway, yeah. We're going to be planting a mixture of seeds and plants today. That is a gator full of goodness right there. Oh, and I think I've got everything that we're going to need today. So let's take a look at what we've got, starting with the plants. We've got cauliflower here. This is a variety called Synergy. It's very heat tolerant, which is really good for us because it heats up super fast, and I don't want to miss out on this crop. I think it's a 75-day maturity on that one. So really, it says smooth, tight, white domes on slender, upright plants. Then we've got 2 varieties of broccoli, actually. We've got a green broccoli called Iron Man. Now this one is an 80 to 85 day, large, dense, semi-round heads, fresh and tender, great for stir-fry salads or snacking. That's those. And then we've got the burgundy broccoli that I started from seed earlier on. Plants are a little smaller, but will be okay. Burgundy broccoli, will pop the stats up on the screen because I don't have the packet right here. It's probably very similar in maturity day to the Iron Man. And then we've got some Walla Walla onions. I totally forgot to start any onion seeds this year. I started most of our onion seeds last year, so either way, we'll get onions in the ground. I brought one of our Walla Wallas from last year. Now these are a high sugar content onion. It's surprising to me how well they store. We have them in our root cellar. It stays right around 40 to 45 degrees in there with like a 50%-ish, maybe a little higher humidity. And they are firm and beautiful. We've got a few that have started to sprout a little bit, still completely usable, but really large, sweet, beautiful onions. So that's what we have here. We'll do 1 bed of those. 112-day maturity. So these are a midsummer harvest. So when we harvest these out, we'll be able to do like a fall crop in that bed, like a fall crop of something, beans or something. Next we have leeks, which we started from seed. These are Primor leeks, so we'll pop some stats up on the screen. This is just going to have to be a I'll show you as I go sort of crop. I've only grown leeks one other time and it's been a while. so I can't even really remember how it went. I remember growing them and eating them, but I mean, it was in our old garden before we moved into this house. I remember it was easy. I think I hilled up soil around the bottom of them, you know, to keep that kind of nice white color on the bottom, but I don't remember much else. So like I said, I will let you know as we progress through the season how that goes. Then I've got some kohlrabi. Now this is the Kossak, K-O-S-S-A-K variety. I put some of these in the cold frames of the Hartley. I had a few extras, so we'll pop these in the ground. 65 to 70 day maturity, really good raw or cooked. They're sweet and tender. And then our seeds. We've got Bloomsdale Longstanding Spinach, one of my favorite spinach varieties. We've got a couple of different lettuce. We've got the Wildfire mix, and then we've got Starfighter mix. And then we've got Tender Chard. This is special baby leaf. And usually when I grow chard, I just kind of grow it for the chickens because I haven't really loved it. I'm hoping that this one, that it says it's a tender baby leaf, and maybe if I harvest it just the right time, I'm hoping that I like it more. Iceberg lettuce. We've got Oregon Sugar Pod peas, which is my favorite snow pea. Nantes carrot, sweet, coreless, wonderful carrots. Hollow crown parsnips, which are a long season, but I love these roasted with other root vegetables, and you have to seed these pretty heavy for good germination. Utah tall celery, easy crop to grow, you guys. Usually I start with plants though, so we'll see how it goes. And then we're gonna do some Japanese baby turnips called Mikado. I don't think I'm missing much. There are other things to plant, like beets and radishes. I guess those are two pretty big ones. I have those growing already in the greenhouse. So those are two things that can go in now, both by seed. You can do, there's some random greens you can do, all kinds of different leafy things you can do right now. Kale, we don't eat a ton of kale. I do have some seeds. I might plant those later. I don't know. But you can probably ask somebody too at your local garden center based on where you're at. I mean, when you're planting spring crops and what you're planting might vary a little bit. So talking to somebody who's knowledgeable in your area is always super helpful. That's where I learned a ton. I learned so much when I was down at the garden center working that seed counter. It was before I even had a big garden, or really like my interest was there and I loved to be out in the garden, but it hadn't like exploded into what it has become. And people had just the best suggestions and just the most interesting stories about their experiences. And I think that you can learn a tremendous amount from just talking with other gardeners. Okay, the other supplies I'm going to be using today. Most of them are actually from Gardener's Supply, I think. Like these tags right here, a garden marker, which doesn't fade as quick as a Sharpie. We've got a couple other types of tag here. I like these metal tags, like the copper ones, like the more decorative looking ones for this garden up here. I use big white plastic tags out in the cut garden because it's such a big space and the crops get so massive that I have to make it easy to find out there. So it's a little different out in the cut garden. I've got my kneeling pad. I've got some domes. I'm going to be doming broccoli and cabbage because these have all been in a warmer location at nighttime. During the nighttime. So have our leeks. I think the leeks will be okay. I brought out super hoops, which I'm going to be using a lot of the super hoops with cloth out in the cut garden. I thought about maybe tenting these for a little while, but I just don't think I'm going to need to, even though they've been in the greenhouse. I just might have to watch them. And that's left over from yesterday. That's the compost that I put in the beds. Okay, so now we just need to decide what to plant where. The obelisks right here, I have 4 of them in the corner of each one of these beds. They were about twice that tall, but over the years I've had them in here for a lot of years. The bottoms have been bent because I grow things on them that are too heavy, and then our heavy winds come through and bend them. So we took the bottoms off. They're like perfect on the top. Perfect little trellises. I'm gonna put these somewhere else though. Maybe I'll cage some of our perennials that tend to want to flop. I'm going to put our tomato frames, which are in the corner. I'm gonna save spots for tomatoes in all 4 corners, and we'll just have our vertical interest be tomatoes this year. Maybe a fun change. As far as the planting goes, I just followed the instructions on the seed packet. I find that usually you can find a lot of good information and tips on the back of seed packets. And you know, it might vary slightly, like a 1/2 inch deep for this seed, maybe a 1/4 inch for that one. Sometimes the lettuce, like it barely wants to be covered. So just make sure you follow the instructions that way. And then the plants that I'm taking out of the containers, I will just make sure to plant them right at where they're at currently. I'll put like a little tiny layer over their root ball that I pop out of the container, and that's it. So I'm just gonna get going in here. We're gonna get everything planted, and then I'll give you a tour to show you where everything ended up. all done. I got 10 out of the 12 beds filled up pretty much all the way. It's starting to sprinkle on us right now, which is just wonderful. I did water everything in though. I love spring. Okay, so we're gonna start right here in the entryway because that just makes good sense. I did decide to pop some fresh plants in the container because I was just so tired of looking at nothing. So we've got a lavender. I saved the tags so you could see them. This is a sensational lavender right here, which should do really well as a centerpiece throughout the summer months. And then we've got penny blue violas ringing around it. I think it just looks really fresh, really clean and bright. I love it. We'll probably have to replace the violas for the summer months, but the lavender can stay. In the bed to the right, we'll start here. I've got 4 red acre cabbage, and I just went ahead and kind of moved the drip lines so that it was a little bit closer to each one of the plants, and soil temperature is still holding at about 50 degrees. I bet you it'd be a little higher if the sun was out today like it has been the last few days. But in the other side of the bed here, we've got iceberg lettuce, 4 rows that just follow the drip line. And then, like I said, we'll be putting a tomato right in here, which I'll be capping probably for the first couple of weeks so I can plant it out a little early. That's why I didn't plant any spring crops right there. And then, like I said, garlic right here. This is the Italian garlic. So one little corner, this corner, I don't know what it is, just this one corner always does this. So we'll see. Usually they pop out of whatever they're doing and they do form up a little bit of a head, but usually not as big as the rest of the bed. So this is what happens when you plant maybe a little too early in the fall. They come up, and winter time temperatures, I don't mulch them or anything. Winter temperatures kind of nips the ends, but they are totally fine. They'll keep on growing. I did fertilize those yesterday because alliums, garlic, onions, those kinds of things are heavy feeders. So we'll do that a couple times through this season. In this bed right here, first 2 rows are the parsnips, second 2 rows are the celery. Both have, well, no, the parsnips will be in here longer. We'll be harvesting the celery out before that, and then we'll replace it with something else. Okay, we're gonna swing to the other side here. This bed is full of leeks, which you can barely see. And I only had to pop, I think, like 2 cells out of that whole tray of leeks that I grew. And I've got 5 rows. You can see I've got one here, 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 and then they just span the bed. And leeks and onions, when you have to pull them out of trays and separate them, they always look a little sad for the first like maybe week or 2. And then they just root in, pick up, and keep on going. So I'm hopeful the leeks are going to do exactly the same thing as the onions. I'm pretty sure they will. This is one of the beds that I did not plant anything in today. You can see it still has some tulips coming up from that tulip planting I did 2 seasons ago. I had stuff in here. I had tomatoes last year. And anyway, I'm going to be planting potatoes in this bed eventually, probably in the next couple of weeks. This bed right here, this front part, we've got 2 rows of the turnips, which actually I was reading on the packet, they only have like a 30-day maturity. So that'll be a really quick crop. And then this chard right here, I did 2 rows as well. And I was reading on the packet and it said that this is a cut and come again kind of chard. So you want to let it get up like 4 or 5 inches and then cut it and use the leaves, and it'll keep on growing back, and it's supposed to have a very sweet and nutty flavor. Sounds really good. A tomato will go there, and then we've got the Synergy cauliflower toward the back. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of those. And then kind of in this front section here, the kohlrabi filled in. Okay, so bouncing over to the other side, we've got broccoli in this bed right here. So there are 8 Ironman broccoli. I love that 2 plants come out of one of the little cells. It's so nice. You can separate them and plant them, and you, mister, are not allowed in these beds. And then 6 of the burgundy broccoli. And I did set up some super hoops. You can see those right here. I've got my fabric sitting right back there, which I will put on here in a moment. Broccoli, like these plants are fine to be outside, other than the fact that these have been in a fairly warm greenhouse. So I kind of want to protect them a little bit. Plants are usually really tough, but broccoli attracts aphids so bad in our area, and that's one of the reasons why I don't normally grow it, because once they get aphids, it's really hard to get them under control because there's so many nooks and crannies for those aphids to live, and I don't want to spray the heck out of my plants. Like, I would rather just have plants that don't have aphids on them. So I thought, you know, I'm going to do broccoli this year, but I'm going to tent it. So we'll grow it under the harvest cloth, which it's like a summer weight cloth is what I'm going to put on. There's and then it all came from Gardener Supply along with the super hoops. But there's a summer weight, there is another one, I can't remember what it's called, and then there's like an actual garden quilt that will protect your crops from a harder freeze. So you want to make sure you're getting the right kind of cloth, but it allows plenty of light in for the plants to grow. But if we tent it, then the aphids can't get in there, hopefully, to my plants. That's my hope. Front part of this bed, we have 4 rows of Nantes carrots, and then we will have a tomato there. In this bed, we do have some tulips popping up, which we will let grow and bloom. In these cloches, which I just picked up, Aaron and I were in Boise on a day out, and I went to the antique store and found these cute cloches. So I'm going to use them as trellises, or not trellises really, because the Oregon sugar pod peas, they're not climbers, but they're really tall, and they do benefit from being caged or supported. So I just planted 2 seeds at the base of each one of these right here, and I'm just going to let them kind of grow in and hang out the sides of those. And then I had some extra onions. So there are 7 onions here. The rest are in this bed. There are 40 in that bed. But I do think I will come along with some kind of smaller growing crop, or maybe a little ring of flowers around the edge to finish this bed off. Here's a closer look at the onion bed. So you can see what I mean. You plant them and then they kind of like flop over, but they'll pick themselves back up here pretty quick. And then on this side, I had a boxwood dye. These boxwoods, I have 4 terracotta pots with these boxwoods in them, have been out here since maybe, was it the first year? Maybe it was the second year. So they are at least 5 years old, and they're so beautiful and doing so well. And then this one started to struggle last year. We had it hooked onto a drip, and nobody really caught it in time and checked the drip. It was all plugged. So it wasn't getting enough water. That was completely user error. And that's why I always kind of say, if you put a drip system up, if you set one up, it's not once and done. You can't just hands off your containers. You still have to check them. And then here I am not checking my containers, and I have a boxwood dye. So it's going to be really hard to try to match the size of the other boxwoods in here. So I think I'm going to move the other 3 out into the landscape and do something different in here. So it's always an opportunity to try something out new. I try not to be bummed when something like that happens, because I can do something else that's fun. Anyway, nothing in this bed yet. So that's one of the 2, along with the one we're going to put potatoes in that we have open. We've got the rest of the garlic in this bed, and then our last bed right up here flanking the front, we've got our greens. So we've got Starfighter lettuce on this side, and I did like a 4-inch band of seeds, and then I did 2 rows of the Bloomsdale long-standing spinach, and then another 4-inch band of the Wild Fire lettuce. Thought that'd be kind of pretty to break up the lettuce. And then right up front we have the Golden Acre cabbage, and then these are the domes right here. So I'm going to today put domes on the top. I'm going to leave the little vent open so the air can go in and out. And they've got these little holes on the bottom. They actually come with stakes. I can't find mine. I have them somewhere. I'll find them one of these days. But I usually just stake them from 2 sides. There's 3 holes total, and that keeps them down if any kind of breeze comes along. But I'm going to cap all the cabbage just to make sure they're okay until they acclimate a bit. So let me cap all the cabbage and get the cloth on, and then we'll take another look. Okay, there's everything all tucked in. All the cabbage is capped. This one's looking a little bit worse for wear, but the thing is still working. The little vent's still working on top, so I think we're good. And those will only stay on for maybe the next week at the most, and then I'll take them off. And then our broccoli is all tucked in. So you can see how that works. The super hoops, they have extenders too, to where you can make them taller if you want, but they're totally adaptable to whatever area you have, which I love. And then this is the summer weight cloth. So you can see it's very fine, like you can see inside. If you stand back, you can kind of see what's going on in there. And I just kind of gather it up and stick a landscape staple through. I do have clips, but I'm going to be using those in a different place. Like there's actual clips to clip the fabric on. Russell, seriously, dude, do not mess with this. If anything happens to it, I'm going to know who is to blame. The thing is about him is that he'll move out of here as soon as I leave. He'll come follow me. Hopefully. And then these, I'm going to keep my eyes on the cauliflower. We'll see if they start to attract any kind of insect. If they do, I will make sure that those have something over the top of them as well. Kohlrabi, typically, I don't deal with an issue on those. Oh, and look at it from this angle. I just love this space so much, so much. And that is it for spring crops up in this garden. I'm so excited that we're out here actually planting again. We do still have potatoes, which is something you plant in the spring, but we don't harvest until a little bit later. So I'll show you that here in a little bit. We will also be planting more of the same things like cabbage, onions, potatoes in bigger quantity out in the big garden up front, the cut garden. I need to prune this rose really bad. I keep snacking my basket on it. We've got the basket because I want to go harvest some of the stuff that we have in the greenhouse. I want to show you that, but I want to treat this space a little bit differently than I have the past few years. The past few years I just toss whatever I want in here and flowers and all kinds of stuff. And while I do want some flowers in here, I want to treat it more like a kitchen garden and just kind of bring you through this year, showing you everything that I have planted and what I have been able to yield out of a space like this in raised beds. Because you know, it's all fine and good if you've got a huge big section to plant things in, but it's different when you're planting on a little bit of a smaller scale using like kind of different methods. So anyway, that's my goal for this year in this space. I will be planting some flowers in here, just not as many as I usually do. Let's head to the greenhouse because I know the radishes are ready to harvest and everything else is looking really good. See, he already beat us up here. Hey Russell, we've got a lot going on in here right now. A lot of fun stuff. Stuff on the floor, stuff on the table, stuff everywhere. We've got like stock I just seeded. It's just starting to come up now. We've got columbine in that tray. There's just trays everywhere. These are the ones that were most recently seeded, so we don't have as much growth. But most of our peppers have come up, everything but the, let's see, which ones? Oh, green bells and the cubanelles did not come up. Everything else did. All of our tomatoes are here. And then real quick, here are the dahlias we potted up early. Like we're getting to a point where we need to pinch. If we're gonna pinch, we need to pinch. So I'll show you that here soon. And then ranunculus and anemones are just going crazy, ready to go outside. And these are the peppers I started inside earlier on this winter. We've got blooms starting to form. Super exciting. They're not huge though. And then over on this side, you can see all of the bulbs that we planted last fall. They're going nuts. We're about ready to be able to use them in containers. And then these are some things that are a little bit further along. You know, we've got pincushion flowers back here, the bunny tails, we've got the mahogany splendor hibiscus, the thyme, and parsley. Really small, but every single cell has a plant. What are these? These are asters right here. Foxglove, we had some issues with foxglove. They actually got aphids. And anyway, I think we'll get some plants, but we've got some cells that I had to pop out, especially in that tray right there. And then just a whole bunch of other things in here. This is what I wanted to show you though in particular. We've got radishes looking amazing. Here are the beets. There are the carrots right there. Beets and carrots have both been thinned. Our greens are looking really good. And our peas are looking really good. Look at those. Those are sugar snap poles right there. Beans. Look at this growth. It's just amazing. Beans and corn right here. And then our tomatoes, which I come along and kind of give them a shake, kind of help them pollinate. But we've got several tomatoes. These are the good-hearted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tomatoes so far. It's really exciting. We just need them to ripen up a bit. And everything else, like this is an evil olive, gonna start blooming here soon. This right here is Linaria, which I've never grown before. Need to do some thinning. We've got Statice and Snapdragons. I really need to thin. I've just been horrible about thinning, and then my plants will start to size up a bit. Delphiniums. This is the tray of Snapdragons I had to reseed. So those are the 3 cells I was able to pick up off the floor. Cheddar knocked a tray down. And then the rest, the bridal pinks, I had to seed later than everything else. But let's take a look specifically at these radishes. Oh my goodness. French breakfast radishes. I'm gonna actually pull all of these because I think we're ready. I think they're ready to come out. Look at how beautiful. I think I'm gonna take some of these down to my parents. They love radishes. Gosh, that's so pretty. Oh, that's weird. Look at that one. Forgot to get any color on the top. Oh, so pretty. Okay, and then this variety is Cherry Belle, which some of them, like most of the time you want to pick them when they're young. Most of them are looking developed enough. Some of them I'm going to leave in the soil. Well, maybe most of them. Yeah, I think I'm going to leave the rest of these and let them size up a bit more. Those are pretty though. Let's go give these a wash. The beauty of an open basket for harvesting right here. Oh, now that right there, isn't that a picture? So beautiful. I think I'm going to go ahead and reseed the whole row of radishes that we just pulled. It's kind of the perfect amount for me to be growing because nobody else here likes to eat them and I only like them a little bit. However, many of you have suggested that roasting radishes is a game changer. So I'm going to give that a try maybe with my next crop, but I have been bragging on these radishes so much to my parents that I'm going to go ahead and take all of these down and give these to them. And that is it for today's video. I am just so excited to be planting seeds out here again. Next, we're going to be in the cut flower garden. I've got some early things I want to get out there. So it's just going to start to snowball at this point, I think. And I hope that today's video was helpful, especially for those of you who are just getting going with your garden and you're just needing kind of like that reminder of what you can be getting in the ground early in the season. While I didn't plant everything that you can plant this early, we got a lot in the ground today. I'm really happy with it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video. Bye.
Oh, hey!
Hey,
Oh,
look.
are those for me?
Yes.
Oh,
Aren't they pretty?
eat them. Okay, these are awesome.
Aren't they awesome?
These are so great. What a pretty. Is the basket mine too?
I know.